Hello,
Good morning,
Enrique.
Peter.
Happy Friday.
How are you feeling today?
Feeling good, just we have a good subject today. We have the good people. We have the good guests. So I think it will be really, really interesting. And it's Friday. So I think it's all positive things.
That's the most important part of the of all the positive things of today. Well, welcome back again to the BIM Cafe. 1 week more, we keep on the run. Today, as Peter said, we have a very special guest. Do we need to do this promo thing we do before about talking about the subscription of the channel? Or people already know, or what do you think?
So please subscribe.
Please subscribe directly to that, yeah. But watch it on the channel directly, and
I think that's not.
Sorry, you can do the magic.
This. Okay, say it again.
You can do the magic. Point the top right corner, and I will show.
Yeah, but I'm not sure which is the one.
There you go.
Okay, this is it. So guys, come over, subscribe. We having some lagging video today, so this is always the good stuff to see. So I hope you guys, everybody is on the call doing well. We will just go through this right now through the quickly. Subscription, if you don't mind, please just subscribe to our YouTube channels and to the LinkedIn newsletter. I think it's important for us just to see the dynamics there, and so we will be very grateful. That's there. Jesus, I'm not the influencer. I don't know how to do this kind of things. Okay, it's just like this things and this things. It's just like it looks like a TikTok. Anyway. So we are about the BIM Cafe. Let's start, Enrique. Let's kick it off.
Let's start, yeah. So today, let's put all the QR codes. I'll clean the screen. Today I'm going to present our interview with Jaan Saar. He's part of the Estonian government, head of digital construction, and he was responsible for implementing some of the different digital tools on the government public administration part to promote the ways of doing things digitally. This is the main headline of this BIM Cafe, no less. Digitalize the construction world. Very interesting interview. Piotr and he have very good challenges about the data, open data, limitations, so on. So I invite you all guys to jump in on the interview right after the show. You can watch it all. And we're gonna start with the first clip as always. First topic, we start very direct to Jaan saying, okay, what he called this is the €1 million question. Why digitalization is not happening, is taking so long in the construction industry. So go first with the answer, and after that we comment.
Why the bloody hell we are not able to go faster with this digitization of the construction industry? What is blocking this?
Well, that's the €1 million question, isn't it? Why we've been talking about digital transformation in construction for decades already, to be honest, and still it takes a while because, but construction is one of the oldest industries out there. And, if you think of it, a lot of comparisons are made, let's talk, electronics, supply chains, automotive industry, aerospace. Look how they've digitized. Look how they've done things. Well, we didn't build cars 1,000 years ago. We didn't build planes 1,000 years ago. But we did build houses, and we've been building houses ever since we moved out of caves, right? So to some extent, this is an age-old industry, and it's something that is very, very close to humans. It employs a lot of people, and it is a very huge industry at the same time. And it's a very complex machine work. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of stakeholders. It's very fragmented, etc. And this is, in my experience, what I've seen working with startups, with technology startups, in IT also, and some guys from automotive industry who really trying to disrupt, construction. It's what we tried to do with the Swiss company as well. But you soon realize, it's not really like the automotive industry, or it's not really like the IT industry. Something's different. It's actually much more complex. And on the outside, it seems like, well, it's just cranes and some guys running around building a house or whatever. But in reality, if you start thinking about the materials, the vast amount of options you have to choose on how to build, what to build, from which materials, how to put them together, what technologies you use there. And there are so many people involved in the process. It becomes a very, very complex, and it needs to be also effort made by the public sector on the government level, because the industry itself is so fragmented, and it's very difficult for one group, any particular company, to bring about a very big change in the whole industry.
So I think we are looking for the new Steve Jobs right now for the construction industry, or Elon Musk of construction industry. That's what I understood we need to go for, right?
It's true that any industry, of course, you dig a bit, you can find the complexity of it, right? But what Jaan picture is it's true that we are building the houses for many years. We build it for many years. The process, of course, has changed, but we still follow, in a way, the same sequence or process, and this is the sign that this needs to change, and it's so complex, that the variety of material, blah, blah, blah. No, I agree with his speech, but this is the excuse speech. We don't need to hold behind to say this is why we're not digitalized.
No, I understood, but Enrique, if you think about it right now, I don't think so. It's so complex at the end. I really apologize. It's just, this is, when you think about this right now, we are talking through the channel of the video, through the network, which is 1,000 times more complex than the construction and the building. I understood that the complexity on the one particular, but we are right now connected through the billion of cables, and our voice is going through whatever, San Ramon or some other place in Japan, to make it happen. And it's still working, right? And it's still real time. And so, yes, I hear you. Yes, it's complex, but I don't think so. It's the different complexity than the other industries. Telco was the same thing. It was 4 players, and they said, my cable is my cable, and because so complex to build this cable, it's over, right?
It's over with excuses, yeah. Totally. So let's cheer ourselves up a bit, because we're going to hear a success story. And Jaan is he was summarizing a bit how the change happening in the Estonian government to become one of the e-governments of references, and how make it possible to do many processes online and digitalize, so we can export this to the construction industry.
Well, I think if you think about the whole Estonian e-government success story, a few unique pillars that brought about this change and make a lot of this digitization possible. One of them is having a mandatory e-identity for every person in Estonia. And this identity card comes with an electronic key, which is actually your electronic identity. And this is why we could then develop all these services where you could log in with your electronic identity, because we made sure everybody has one. You have to have one. And this also enabled us to push for digital signatures already 15, 20 years ago. And at one point, government offices, all public institutions, it was mandatory for them to accept digital signatures as regular paper-based signatures. And that really drove a lot of change in the industry. And the entire private sector immediately also picked up on it and started using digital signatures. And it really, I think, gave a nice boost and a momentum to drive all of this change. And once you have solved the digital identity, you can sign off things digitally. This opens up a whole world of digital services. You can build upon that. And that's why in 2016 already we have a fully digital building permit service solution for the whole of Estonia. So we have a national system which is developed and managed by my ministry, but it is used by all municipalities. So the process itself, getting a building permit, you go to your local municipality, but you don't go to the office. You go online and you submit your application online to that local municipality, and they manage, all the approval. They send you back comments, but all of that is done through a central system. But building such a system without having the underlying architecture for digital identity, for digital signatures, and also data exchange for secure and reliable data exchange between government systems, I think without those underlying technologies, it would have been much more difficult.
Okay.
This is now how we do things daily. You know, like I get my doctor appointment online and submit my tax reports online. This is something that we're used to. But why in the construction is not possible yet? No, it's so long. It takes so long that this is how Jaan is showcasing it in Estonia. Looks like it's moving forward.
Yeah, no, but I think one of the key elements there was really the foundations, and I think they did it pretty well. And the one things which it's coming, and guys, listen to the interview, the full interview. The one things is saying we did it because we were in the beginning of the creation of the whole process, and that was much easier for us to do this. If we will be having the 40, 60, 70, 100 years old government and regulations, it will be much more difficult for us. So they did it in the right moment, in the right time, and environment was good. Really good story. Just listen to the full interview at 10:30, right? We will just release it.
Yeah,
right
after the show, correctly. Well,
yeah.
Let's move on with the next one. We're going to focus a bit more on digitalization, and from the video that Jaan was asking, that because we had this backbone, this support of digital tools, we could implement the processes for building permits, making digital quicker. So I asked him, like, so do you think what is the backbone we're missing, or what is the support we are missing on the digital construction to make this happen? Let's see what is his answer, and after that we do our comments. Do you think that we're missing this digital backbone in the construction world to make this flow smoothly, like it happens in Estonia?
I don't think we're missing such a digital backbone as such, because it's really too optimistic to expect that there's going to be this one thing to tie everything together. It's really about how we manage data and how we understand what is construction information. And all of it is actually just data. BIM is just a form of how we structure this data. And and again, I think if you would consider something as the glue, or something that would tie it together, I would still come back to the open formats and make sure that we are exchanging information, data, in as much as possible in a common format, or a common language, if you will, which will make it a lot easier for us to join different processes, manage the information model from one phase to another, from one life cycle step to another, and to keep adding to that information all the time without having to recreate stuff from scratch. So I would say it's relatively simple data management practices when it comes to IT, but in the construction industry, it's still it's not that well understood of a concept. That we're not talking, we need to stop talking project-based. We need to start talking more product-based, and really look at the how we manage data from a life cycle perspective.
Nothing more to say. I think that's the data models are really the key elements. That's what we are doing, by the way, with our BIM objects, and the way how we are just trying to help different companies to start with it, because we see there is a lot of problems on the model itself in the companies. And then we already gave this example of having some of the websites, they have the models from the 2019 or 2018, and the guy saying everything is okay, even they changed the production 7 times and the specification 7 times. So yeah, I think he was right there.
Also making them happen on the open formats, no? Because at the end, if you stick with type of software, you're closing a bit the market on this. Of course, we know that which are the software we use the most, but it's important the emphasis that he pointed out on the managing the data with the open formats. Well, and this is how we're going to keep going with the conversation, because one important thing as well that Jaan shared with us was about what we call the building logbook. And this is something we hear for the first time with Anne. I don't know, you remember, Peter, last season we talked with her, and she was explaining there's many projects on the EU about the R&D, talking about the digital logbook, how to register the data for the whole life cycle of the project. Okay, this is the key there. collect the data during the process, the design, the construction, and for the maintenance and operation of all those buildings. So let's take a look what Jaan has to say about it, and then we go afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, what we're doing now with our building registry, because we have everything, all the built environment or the buildings described there, we're trying to get the municipalities to use that data more and more, because we've had an issue that, you get the building permit application, they review it, they collect all the data, that's nice, they issue the permit, and that's it. They more or less forget about it, and they think, the information is somebody else's information. They're not supposed to deal with it. But actually, the municipalities are responsible. They're the owners of that built environment data, and we needed them to keep it up to date as possible. But in order to keep it up to date, you have to start using that data. So we're really trying to provide more services and more access, easier access for them to get information from the building registry, which is, kind of in Europe what they're kind of calling now is the building logbook, as a new concept, which is kind of what we've already had for years and years in Estonia, is essentially a building logbook. But we're building services on top of that. For example, like the 3D digital twin, so we can use to visualize it. You can visualize new developments. You have planning, zoning. You have restrictions there, and once you start visualizing it, you immediately see the errors you have in the data, because if there's missing information about a building, it doesn't show up. If the height information is wrong, you immediately see it. It doesn't fit in. And or if the status of the building shows we use different colors, you see, well, that building should be already commissioned, but it's still shown as being built or being planned. So there's something wrong there as well. And these kind of things help a lot in data management, because ultimately, coming back to what I was saying, is that we need to start using all this built environment data smarter way, so it adds more value to every life cycle step, and really about.
So built-in logbook, we said something we already discussed about it. I like this sentence we put here: keep the data alive during the life cycle of the project, because we have this tendency of finishing a construction project, and they say, okay, clear up, don't even contact me about this. All the work we did to create that data and the databases, cultivate them and harvest those data. We need to use them for the maintenance and operation of the building. It's going to be useful for us. This is what Jaan is saying, that this is how we need to move forward with the management.
Yeah, Enrique, I fantastic stuff. But I was just thinking about it, and
here it comes.
I was making notes on my paper notebook, and I was saying, shit, I supposed to do this on the planner on the Microsoft, and I said, oh my god, again, I need to do this online stuff. Yes, I hear about the logbook, I hear about the electronic logbooks, but when you're sitting, I remember when I was working with the guys who were helping preparing the lifts, and each elevator has the logbook. But sometimes when you're sitting between the 10th and 11th floor, you don't feel the logbook. You just try to think how the mechanic works, just that you will not fall down on the 10 floors down. So yes, I hear it. It's important, but let's make it simple and automatic, just in most of the extent, so that then it will be fun. That will be good. If you will just ask the human intervention, it like me, I will have a paper still.
And let me recall something that Jaan said a couple of weeks ago. I think when he was saying that we need to stop talking about product, we need to focus more of project. We need to focus more on product. No, so make it simple there, and managing the data for materials or for product will make easier to handle this massive building logbook of the whole construction. Well, let's move to the next part, and it was very interesting to discuss about this. No, let me show the headline before. The data on board. This is a conversation with Pietro got a bit heated, and Jaan, discussing about, okay, who owns this data? How do we share this data? Because we're talking about digitalization is to use the data in open formats and share it, and this creates some problems about privacy, ownership, business models, and controls. So for me, this was the most interesting part of the conversation.
What you're telling me right now, Enrique, I need to change my approach to our guests to make sure that I'm nicer. That's what you're telling me, right?
Well,
Okay.
what you need to do, Peter, is not make them uncomfortable, because otherwise they won't come back here.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Joking. You know, it was nice to see this just going on. So let's take a look of the highlight moment of that part. Again, invite everyone to watch it in full at 10:30, and but then let's see what Jaan and Peter thinks about these open data formats.
If you think about the internet is a global. Data is not a global, right? So data contains the borders, unfortunately. So, you know, I see this kind of like a risk going forward, that we can just get the some of the big suppliers decided that saying, I will not publish this data anymore. That's mine, you know, and you can just tell me whatever you want to do. I have just 80% of the market share in terms of the glass production, whatever production, ABCD production. And no, that's my data. I will not see my structure in the BIM objects, for example, right? You can regulate it, but the answer is no.
Well, I mean, that's how business is often done. I mean, if you have a monopoly, or if you have a 80% share of a market, you can pretty much do what you want. But whether or not that is a sustainable business model is another question.
That's it. I agree.
Sooner or later, somebody will challenge that model, and if they are more open and they provide more value, then they will be, I think, successful. And again, that's why I think we really need to promote and use open formats for data, open sources, as much as possible, especially in the public sector, because, you know, when it comes to private sector, it's up to you guys. If it's private money, you order something, you do it, fine. You have more kind of freedom to choose what you have. But if you're doing it for public money, then you need to be accountable on how you use it and how you also manage the data. So, yeah, I understand what the issue is and where the problem could be, but it's often related. Well, the example was with the supply chain that you mentioned, and I think that's more of a supply chain issue again, not that much of a data issue.
Wow.
He came out well, I think. You know, it's true that this problem that you were picturing can happen, but at some point, someone can challenge that type of business model. So we can, again, evolve towards what is the goal, is the open data format, so no one can really hold the power of changing the data upload. If it's an open format or not, you don't want to participate, you're going to lose a big competitive advantage, because the open format is the widely one on the market. So this is why we need to try to push those IFC. I think we produce always with all our clients on the models. This is where we need to put the focus there. Whatever software you want, plus open ones. Okay, this is how we need to standardize, and more on the public institutions, as also Jaan says.
I think we agree, Enrique. I think that's not, you know, I'm not questioning the need for the open source and open data and open standards. I'm questioning only if somebody will see the business to close the data, they will do it, right? And if you will have the monopoly on something, you will do it. And then it was the same thing as we have on internet, right? I'm just on the beginning was just completely open, and then we discovered there are some things which you need to control it, etc. But I think the growth of the internet was really thanks to the openness and ability to everybody connect and exchange. Then you see the capacity of closing some part. Anyway, good debates, guys. 10:30. Look at the full video. I just, as Enrique said, I just need to make sure that I will not scare the guests. So, yeah. I need to think about it. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You guys realize, you know, YouTube channel, go there, all the thumbnails of the videos, they're us smiling. So it's all we shouldn't be that much unfairly. You know, we're always having fun with the guests, totally. Well, let's close today's episode with the last chapter, and it's good in a way because we're summarizing everything that happens. Just showcase the success of the e-government from Estonia, having these young people with new mentality, how they make it happen with a good backbone, and how we can transfer it to the construction. So we were asking, okay, Jaan, what are the steps you will recommend or duplicate to recreate the process you're doing on the government? with the construction industry or other public administrations. So let's take a look at the system share.
Let's go for it.
But it's really about getting the government to make the decisions, to take the step, to make the first change. And that is something I see, which is maybe a bit unique in Estonia, that having a small government, having all of this digital society, we are more adapted to making changes quicker. And that would be, one of the first things is to really kind of push for change, and not to. This doesn't mean creating, a huge master plan or something like that. No. What you need to do is you need to just start making changes in an agile manner, small steps, but keep making them, keep moving them. Always have, the long-term goal also somewhere in sight, but not create a plan for managing the whole long-term goal, because that'll never work. And what is working in the software industry is, this waterfall methodology for software development is kind of already age old. Nobody wants to do that. All software development is happening in an agile manner. So you deliver as quickly as possible a working solution, and you build from there. You take feedback from the industry, from your users, from your clients, and you build upon a product. And this kind of agile mentality is not very common in governments, but at least in Estonia, we're trying to implement it. And to some extent, we've been a little bit successful with that. Although as the older our government gets, the more difficult it is to make these changes, because the construction industry is so complex and it has so many different stakeholders that to have the industry bring about this bigger change is very difficult again. So it's maybe a little bit easier if it's pushed by the public sector, because there are some opportunities there. But then again, to get the public sector to move, that might be a lot more difficult task than to ask the industry itself to kind of push for change in the government. And this is what I see happening in many countries. Is in some cases it's the government. In most cases, it's industry who's really pushing for change, and the government is kind of a blocker, if you will, in many cases.
I mean, sad to hear that last blocker in many cases.
No, but I think I like the idea of public sector as well, Enrique. I think this is coming from the many different players right now that it can help the whole industry to structure well. So yeah, that's a good one.
Excellent.
Guys, thank you very much for being with us. Thanks our interviewee and just our panelists just to get in together with us. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge about your success stories and how we can just transform the construction industry. The whole interview 10:30 on the YouTube. It will be released just after our BIM Cafe here. And Enrique, can you just thank you guys. Subscribe.
We have an amazing synchronization right now, man. This is really great. Just put the code and you're pointing at the same moment. Wow, I'm so happy.
Yeah, but I'm becoming really a very famous BIM influencer. This is the people who get the planes. They recognize me, saying, "Yeah, you're the BIM Cafe guy." Yeah. Okay.
Totally. Well, guys, thank you so much. Here down the QR code for the LinkedIn newsletter. Important there, because we are also releasing articles about different topics related to BIM, and as well we are adding some of the transcripts of the interviews in a way of like headlines and question answer, in a way of if it was a magazine. So also subscribe, because it's nice to also read those interviews on the digital printed version, let's say. So both codes there. This is the homework you need to do to give you the support, and that's it for today, right?
That's it. Thank you very much, Enrique. Happy Friday to all of you. Happy Friday to you, Enrique. Enjoy a sunny Malaga.
Today. Yes.
Okay. And I'm just today sunny Paris, so it will be great. Guys, thank you very much for having us, and come to see us next week.
This week.
Bring the coffee for it next time.
See you guys. Have a good week ahead. Bye.
Have a good one. Happy Friday, everybody.